Today we will be discussing electro-hydraulic control as it applies to valve or actuator control and some of the functionality. This is Graham Hunter from ATI. From here we see an enclosure containing a power unit with the accumulator on the side of the enclosure, and the power unit is connected via tubing to an actuator on top of a valve. You can see that the power unit consists of a motor, pump, and reservoir. Reservoir is approximately 5 gallons. And then from the back panel we see a directional solenoid valve in the middle with 2 emergency shutdown valves on the side of the directional solenoid valve with a locking valve on the top. We see at very little pressure of the power unit that the power unit powers on. Pressure rises up to the operating pressure of the unit, which is approximately 1800 psi for this particular valve and actuator combination. Once the pressure is reached at 1800 psi, a pressure switch turns a motor contactor off and shuts down the motor.
Okay, now open it. Open the valve.
First we'll show the open functionality of this unit. The operator will put the enclosure in the open position. Fluid from the accumulator and power unit will be diverted through the directional solenoid valve to the bottom chamber of the actuator, and the valve will open as shown. You can see from the trip arm on the position transducer that the actuator is moving upwards. Once the valve is open, a limit relay signal is sent from the position transducer to the enclosure showing that the valve is open. We will then close the actuator and show the reciprocal functionality. The trip arm moves down and the valve closes. Once the valve is closed, a limit relay signal is sent to the enclosure indicating the close position. We'll show the open functionality and show that the 2-wire 4 to 20 milliamp signal for the position feedback increases when the valve is open. For this case, and for most cases, 20 milliamps is open and 4 milliamps is closed. Again, the signal is increasing until it hits 20 milliamps.
Now lose power.
The valve is indicated to be open. Now we will show what happens when we lose power. The emergency shutdown valves will be activated and hydraulic power will be diverted to the top chamber of the actuator via the directional solenoid valve, and the valve will be closed.
Now do the manual override.
Now, to open the valve, one must engage the manual override on the directional solenoid valve. The user closes the 2 ball valves to be able to open the actuator using the accumulator.
Yeah.
The operator can use a simple Phillips screwdriver to engage the manual override. Open and close times, stroke times are usually 30 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes, depending on actuator and valve size, and if an accumulator is used. A quick trick to close the valve without engaging the manual override on the directional solenoid valve is to open the 2 ball valves to close the valve. Power is again then applied. Pressure starts to rise from very little pressure, from 500 to 1000 psi, to the 1800 psi operate pressure of the unit. Once the 1800 psi is reached, again the pressure switch will turn off the motor. Pressure is reached. Usually charging the accumulator takes about 1 to 2 minutes.
Now lose power.
Power is turned off. The emergency shutdown solenoid valves on the side of the directional solenoid valve are activated, and the valve is closed.
Now use the hand pump to...
We will then show the second override option, which is using the hand pump, which uses the same reservoir as the power unit. The operator will isolate the hand pump by putting the three-way ball valves connected to the actuator ports into the test bypass position. The operator can use a simple pipe to stroke the hand pump after he has put the selector switch into the open position. The operator can stroke the hand pump. Usually it takes 50 to 100 strokes to open and close the valve or actuator, depending on the size. This valve is, of course, a gate valve. The override options allow for redundant control when power is lost, both the hand pump and the charged accumulator. After the valve is open slightly, the operator can put the selector switch into the closed position and stroke in the closing the valve.
It's easier to close because you're acting against gravity.
ATI provides electro-hydraulic control units, as well as power units and hand pumps. We also provide electro-hydraulic solar control units when power is not available on site. Overall, the power unit, the directional solenoid valve on this double-acting actuator, and the two emergency shutdown valves allow for ease of operation using 120 volts AC power. You can learn more at www.atiactuators.com.